You're listening to Creep Geeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to the Creep Geeks Podcast, Season 6, Episode 245.
Mothman High Energy Banger, Marion Bigfoot Festival, and Seagull Alien Spy Flies?
Yes. So here we are again. You're listening to the Creep Geeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this podcast is about what?
Creep Geeks Podcast is an offbeat podcast exploring the paranormal, cryptid, supernatural, and simply absurd nonsense circulating the web.
Yes.
Yes, broadcasting paranormal news and strange experiences from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
Yes, for now.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, here we go. So we like to travel and do some stuff and get out there and find and see things, and sometimes we're able to do that more frequently than other times. You know, hey, gas is expensive. Things are kind of getting a little crazy. Freaking inflation. It's like a throwback to when I was like 12 or something when inflation was all crazy, or maybe even earlier than that. I'm old.
I don't think they need you.
I'm old. I remember inflation back and when gas got crazy and all this other stuff was going on. When President Jimmy Carter was in office, it was a thing. I was like in elementary school, and the number one song in my elementary school, do you want to know what it was?
Sure.
I don't remember the title of it, but it was like Jimmy Carter is a farter. It was like serious business in the fourth grade, man. I was like, what? Yeah, it was nuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't remember the rest of it. It kind of had sort of the same
cadence.
Yeah, as Oscar Mayer Wiener or something like that. It was kind of dumb. So anyway, I'm going to move back into the podcast. So check it out. Every once in a while we get an email from people that ask us things or share things. Sometimes we get emails that we're just like, let's go ahead and put that in the burn pile because, you don't want to get whatever it is in the email on you.
The burn pile? So do we print it out and then burn it?
Yes. After sprinkling some sage and oregano oil on it, right? So, but, sometimes I get caught through an email and I look at it and I'm indifferent. I'm like, let's see what this is. Mm-hmm. And then I just go, you know what? I don't care. Let's just post it and see what happens, right? Let's just share it and see what happens.
Okay.
Now, this one is a little bit more geared towards the show. It's a song.
Cool.
Yeah. So the song, all right, so let me read you the email. It's probably easier, right? Mm-hmm. And so the email came in and it said Mothman song.
Okay. So
I'm like, all right, let's see what this is all about, right? And I'm going to read it. It says, my band, Post-Traumatic, and if I'm saying that wrong, I should apologize, but I'm not.
Traumatic.
I'm not going to, right? Is this a traumatic or
Traumatic.
Oh, is it? I'm not good at identifying license plates either. Like when you see you ever seen like license plates where you're trying to figure out like 7 letters, like what does this mean? Okay, so it's traumatic. That makes more sense. All right, so I apologize, guys, for just butchering, right? They released a new single called Fly to the Mothman. It says, we would be honored if you dig it and would like to use it on your podcast. The song will be featured in the upcoming release of the found footage movie Mothman in 2022 by Joshua Brucker. Mm-hmm. Here's a link to Spotify and the YouTube links for it. Let us know what you think. It's a high energy banger.
Okay. I've actually seen posts about this found footage movie. Okay.
What?
I'm interested because it's kind of like Blair Witchy.
Well, yeah, found footage.
Yeah.
So, I'll watch it whenever it's available. But
yeah.
So anyway, the links to Spotify and YouTube are included. And I like that. Let us know what you think. It's a high energy banger. That's what did it for me.
There's enthusiasm.
Exactly. Okay. That's my entire point. Why are you blasting me? I'm not. Put it in here, man. So anyway, I figured what we would do is go ahead and play the song at the beginning of the podcast because, we do podcasts that are over an hour long. Nobody's going to see it, an hour and 8 minutes from now.
Okay.
Or hear it, I should say. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to play it And then in the show notes, as we include all of our notes and with links and things like that, you'll be able to click on it and find it on Spotify or the YouTubes if you want.
Cool.
Yeah, so you have choices. So let me see if I can get back to where it was so I don't inadvertently play. Okay, that was the beginning of it. Well, I got to download it on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. And it at first played The Sound of a Black Hole. I'm like, I think I've heard this before. And then it kicked into the song. I'm like, oh, yeah, all right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and play it. Hope you enjoy it. So take a second and listen to Flight of the Mothman by Post Traumatic, not Traumatic. There you go. What do you think about that?
It's cool.
Oh, that stupid black hole song is. There you go.
Okay.
I couldn't stop it from auto playing because we have a minimal bandwidth. So yeah, kind of is a thing. I like it. I thought it was all right. What? You nodding your head doesn't do anything to the people listening.
I know, it's still because I'm sick. So
I know.
Words are valuable.
Words are valuable. Words hurt. Words, Anyway, so yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. So we kind of put it in there, and we do have a link to that stuff, and you can check it out on both Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah,
and that was Post Traumatic, not Traumatic, which sounds kind of.
I do think it's cool.
I don't know, man. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, so it's Flight of the Mothman. I thought it was pretty neat.
I do think it's cool that there's now cryptid music. I mean,
well, yeah. Remember we got handed like bootleg DVD/CD from some Bigfoot festival we were in, and the guy was like, "Don't play it, man. We're going to release it."
Oh.
And then like a year later, I found it and we just played it because I'd never heard from those guys again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my only fear is that we play this, and we do upload our podcast to YouTube because it is hashtag listenable, which means that for the audio version, you can just have it play and go do what you want to do, like clean the house or whatever you're doing, right? You don't actually have to watch the video. So my only fear is that we play it and it gets popped for copyright.
Oh.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. Thought it was kind of neat, so we figured we'd go ahead and put it in the podcast. It was a simple, easy request, and I like it. I think it sounds pretty good. So yeah, if we ever run into those guys, I'm gonna say hello. Or if you ever run into them, say hello.
Yeah.
So anyway, gonna move back into the podcast. So we went and did the Marion Bigfoot Festival in Marion, North Carolina,
Yeah.
and overall, it was good.
Yeah.
So. There's a lot of people we know that go out and do events, right? They vend, they speak, and they do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they never do the Marion Bigfoot Festival. I don't understand why. Because it's
either.
It's a huge festival where you can set up your tent or whatever you got, right? Your little pop up, because it's on the main street in Marion, North Carolina. The entire town gets behind it and paints their windows with Bigfoot stuff and put flags out. And so it requires some, logistically speaking, it requires a lot.
Yeah, it does. It requires
what do you call it? Satellite parking and all this.
Half the volunteers available within McDowell County, North Carolina, actually participate in helping to make this event happen.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard originally, some of the reasons I've heard people haven't attended is because it's near or close to the same time as the Mothman Festival. Well, this year, after they had to cancel at the last minute in 2021, they announced the dates for May. And there was nothing around this May date. So it's a huge festival. I mean, I tried to do a backward walking video tour for our TikTok, and I only made it like halfway before I ran out of time on our TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, it's the entire main street, and it's a small, quaint town to begin with. Couple hundred vendors. Everything is Mothman. Everything is Bigfoot, Sasquatch, cryptid related.
Yeah.
You don't find too many things like mailbox cozies and things like crafty, weird stuff, but there is some stuff out there. It's an event that if it happens and you're a vendor and you would like to do this kind of thing, if you snooze on it, you lose, period.
Yeah.
And so we enjoy doing it. There's a lot of people. And it rained this year. It rained really hard for like a while.
2 days.
And people still showed up. They're like, rain or shine, we're going to do it. Now, that being said, the thing is not without some criticism, and it's just some nitpicky stuff that I have that I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm going to a point with it. So the Marion Bigfoot thing is big. Mm-hmm. It's people come from all over. I do think there needs to be a little bit more information put out there as far as like where parking is and maps and stuff like that. I'm trying to get things hammered down. I understand all that stuff. So it's just from a planning perspective on my side of things,
But see,
I like to know, but they handled it well. I mean,
and saying just that type of feedback though, you're going to get counter feedback, and that's, well, the information's on the website, or go here.
You're absolutely correct. And I was hoping you were going to say that. Now, that's true.
Yes.
However, it is 2022. Mm-hmm. Social media is everywhere, and it costs you exactly $0 to post.
Exactly.
Now, Facebook is great, and the majority of the people that you would think that don't know anything about this would use Facebook to post, because that's a common thing, right? The old people are using Facebook, and I'm an old person, right? But you also have TikTok, you have Twitter, you have YouTube, you have other ways of promoting this sort of thing.
This festival gets written about by one of the largest tourism-y type websites, actually 2 of them, Romantic Asheville, which is very big in the state of North Carolina, and Only in Your State. So if this festival is written about in both of those very large platforms, I mean, there's ways to disseminate, like on Twitter, like you were saying,
right,
and through these other avenues.
And it needs to be happening like every week.
Yeah.
You can't just like post once or twice, and they did towards the end. And I'm really not trying to slam anybody. I have the same adage I have for every event that we've done, and we've done over 40 events. It doesn't make us an expert by any means, but we've done about 40 of these things in different states and different places for different things. And one thing is in common: if people don't know, they don't go. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a lot of people there.
Yes.
So I'm not sliding them at all on that. I just happened to notice that there wasn't as many public-facing posts that could have been made in different places and different groups and that sort of thing.
And I think you need to kind of emphasize that public-facing posts.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm...
Information needs to be posted to the Facebook page, to the actual event itself, on these
to
social
Instagram,
media.
to Twitter, to all that stuff.
And not, well, I was going to say, not just within a group, because you can't just count on the people within the group. And this is my advice as a social media marketer to every, like, even some of my clients.
Right.
You can't just post the details for an event or a project within a group. You need to have a public-facing avenue, like a page. A page has far more significant reach.
Yeah, and we're not talking about a web page, an actual page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it also can be shared in other actual like-minded groups of cryptid and stuff like that. I mean, when I was sharing it on Cheap Geek, it would get 200, 300 people looking at it.
Yeah.
Which was more than what they were getting.
Actually, one of your posts hit like some crazy 1,000 mark.
Yeah,
like
it's because I'm trying to help.
3,000?
And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is that I went back and looked, and I did see on Facebook where somebody had made a post that had they known about it, they would go.
Yeah. And
one of the presenters, who shall remain nameless, it wasn't a cool presenter that we know, it was somebody that we're not too familiar with, basically said it was their fault. They said that, oh, well, the event was promoted. It was promoted all over the place, and you should have seen it. And if you're not into Bigfoot and you didn't, or if you're into Bigfoot and you didn't see this, that's your fault.
I'm sorry. Customer service 101.
Well, it's not even customer service. It's my idea was, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare somebody blast somebody for not knowing about an event that was put out there and it was published, probably to the best of the organizer's ability, but not quite enough, honestly. And then make it out to be their fault that they didn't go. And it's like, okay, so I went and looked into the person that made the post, and it's like, nobody knows who you are. So why would you blast this person who was an attendee? Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of attitude. It's like when I go into a store, because you talk about customer service, and I buy something, and you act like you're doing me a favor as you're ringing me up. Mm-hmm. I may be a little old school about that kind of thing. I'm like, how dare you?
And when I say,
it's like, hold on, you're not doing me a favor. If I didn't buy the product, you wouldn't have a job, and I will write FU on my receipt when I hand it back to them. And I have.
And when I say customer, I mean audience.
Well, no, it's the same thing.
And it's not just, like you're saying with the store example. It means anybody else who reads those comments. How do you think your candor with that other person is going to come across?
Yeah. And I've used this example in the podcast, and we've seen examples like this. And, when you're younger, it probably doesn't necessarily mean as much as it does when you're older, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a gas station that you'll go to, and you'll pay an extra 4 or 5 cents more per gallon because you like the people that are there. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, or whatever, and it makes you feel like you're part of something or whatever it is. And that you enjoy the interaction and you feel like, okay, I'm appreciated. Whereas you can go to a cheaper price gas station and the person could care less. And you're like, I'm not coming back here again.
Yeah. But I do want to bring it back to the whole cryptid paranormal community. That type of attitude that is out there.
Yeah, that should never happen. That
closed ranks and how dare you, or the shame on you type mentality, or I know this. How obviously that, the air quotes obviously, that just shuts people out. And if you're going to be exclusionary with this whole community and with this whole topic, I don't want to know you.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean,
and it was just, I got incensed about it. And that's when I came to you and was like, should I even say something to this? And I didn't, because I'm like, I don't want to get drawn in it. But it just did. Look, if you don't hear about an event and you're sad that you missed out, I totally understand that. And, apologies should be made,
Yeah.
And especially when we're on the other side of it and we can see how things could have been improved, I totally understand all that. If you're like a presenter or somebody who, and you can somebody for not knowing, and you're wrong, 100% wrong. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be that way. And there's already enough aggravation, and being involved in all this sort of stuff that we'll just go quotes regular people have towards it was wrong. And I was a little grumbled about it, but I don't want to take away from Mary and Bigfoot.
And just
the organization.
One final nitpicky thing. So later on in June, we're going to be involved in the Foothills summer solstice event, which is happening at the end of June. And we're going to have a table. We may offer some other things at our table. But already, I'm in a couple of these different paranormal, a couple of these weird eccentric groups, metaphysical communities. And I saw 2 different posts from 2 different people asking, hey, I'm looking for this type of event. I'm either new here in North Carolina or I'm not too familiar. I'm new. I went right on there as a person, as a vendor, as a personality that will be at this event, and courteously provided them a link, told them how close the event was in North Carolina and blah, 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 and left it at that. Because
good for you.
That's what you should do as a spokesperson or representative of an event. We're not even, we're just vendors and personalities that are going to be at this event in June. Be nice. Be welcoming.
Yeah, it's aggravating.
And to go with that being nice and being welcoming, when we showed up to set up at Marion Bigfoot Festival, the mayor was walking through and he was being awesome to all the new vendors.
Now you're getting into the points we were going to talk about next.
He was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so we did the event, right? And we're in there, we got all set up and stuff, and it kind of went like this. Met a reporter, and you guys did a little chit-chat under a tree, which made it look even more weird than, reporter was super cool, talked to him for a while. The mayor of Marion came down and said, hey, what's going on? And chatted up with us for a little bit. I think we gave him a sticker.
Yeah.
So he could put it in his pocket. I don't know, do something with it, Had a conversation with the reporter who was like, you guys should interview the mayor and put him on your paranormal and weird news podcast. And the mayor, really nice fella, looked like, oh God, please don't ask. Please don't. And I get it, because there's a lot of politicians, that probably want to do things in a certain way, right? And be able to reach out to all the people and do all that stuff. Maybe they don't want to be a part of a podcast like that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a mayor and they were like, hey, let's go talk about ghosts and stuff for an hour, I don't know if I would I don't know how I'd feel about that.
However, I have already met the mayor once of this city, and I've talked to him, and he is he's very into some of the unique history.
Yeah, absolutely. But there becomes a point where with fringe history and things like that a lot of people just don't understand. And it's much the same as when you get slammed by somebody who's involved in this industry, and you give it a different sort of feel to it, right? It puts a different taste.
So, going on. But he would love to have a conversation about history.
And we're going to.
We'll
chat it up with him, because, history is great. I like it. But, so we met the mayor. He was super cool. We met some fans that came up and, had seen us all over the place. So that was pretty cool. Gave out some swag. We met some people from Fate Magazine.
That was super cool.
And chatted up with them, and we kind of traded some swag. Got a couple of really cool old original original, the magazines for Fate Magazine.
Editions.
And editions. And one that you got was the one with mermaids.
Yes.
And I'd read that a long, long freaking time ago, so I was super excited about that. Mm-hmm. And they were super nice, and we're going to be talking in a future podcast episode about the event that they're doing, basically when they celebrate, I believe it's 47 years or 74. It's a long time of being in publication, and talk about Men in Black.
Oh.
And so that's going to be pretty neat. So we also met the Hex Files podcast.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I seen the guy looking at me, right? And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this guy looks familiar for some reason. I couldn't figure it out. And then he started talking. I'm like, where do I know that voice from, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, they came by and chatted up.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
I thought it was so weird, though, because, you and Josh, just stared each other down for, a good, 30 seconds,
but it wasn't like...
Yeah, it was trying to figure you out.
It wasn't like two dogs trying to figure out who's going to, territorial, who's going to piss on that. It wasn't like that. It was just where do I think I know this dude, and I don't know where I know this dude from, because that happens to us a lot. We do events, and we get people say, hey, I talked to you 2 years ago.
For a while there.
And I'm like, yeah, you look vaguely familiar. And then they start talking, and sometimes it's like, oh, I remember your crazy ass. Yeah, I remember what you were talking about.
For a while there, Hex Files and Creep Geeks, we were literally showing up to the same weird destinations within a week apart of each other accidentally.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool to finally meet them. It's nice to finally meet other paranormal researchers and podcasts in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Because, we know a lot of folks from all over. So finally getting more integrated within the community here is kind of cool. Yeah.
Look at you just being all diplomatic.
I am. I'm not feeling well, so it's calmed me down a lot.
That's cool. Anyway, let's move into the podcast.
Okay.
How dare ye. So we met Daniel again. Daniel's cool. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say met him again. We just haven't seen Daniel in a long time. Daniel came by and Hearst Paranormal. It looks good. So that was kind of neat. Come sneaking up on us.
Yeah.
Who else did we met a bunch of people. And excuse me, it rained super duper hard.
Yeah.
And we had some people hanging out underneath our, I've never been more happy that I spent $10 extra on our little 10 by 10 pop-up tent thing.
Yeah.
Than that particular moment right there. So we spent the extra money to get the shape to it. It's not like flat on the top or anything like that. It has this little special shape, or I can't remember the exact feature of what it's called. But what we didn't get was huge puddles, and we only got like a couple drips here and there. And we're talking, it rained so hard it pushed people's what do you call them? Concession tents and shelters down. I mean, just like tore them. This was a heavy rain.
There was 2 very large pavilion-sized tents that collapsed on themselves.
Oh, yeah.
There's one vendor tent that was about the same size as ours that collapsed.
Yeah.
There's another tent that I guess a gust down street
Blew it away.
Yeah. Actually, it cracked one of the legs.
Yeah, yeah. It bent it.
So,
and we had like a little river underneath our feet. And see, one of the things that, we do is we plan for things. And, I sit around and daydream about what would happen if a microburst came and blew all of our stuff away.
Now, granted, Pepper was with us because we tried to take her to all the events we're able to, and it was raining. She was not happy.
No, but we brought a blanket, and so I covered it. She didn't like the lightning and the thunder. That's really what she didn't get. And so, we brought 4 gallons of water, and we tied it to each of the posts, and you hang the gallon of water off the legs. You don't put it on the ground and tie the pop-up thing, the shelter, whatever you want to call it, to it, because it doesn't do any good. You have to hang it, so get some downforce on the legs. So we were good to go. We had like 5 people just standing underneath there, and so we pulled the tables back so they could stand there and chatted it up. It was good.
Yeah.
And then after the rain, we met again with Matt Delph
Yeah.
from Mercro, right?
We almost never get a picture of him.
Well, he doesn't. It's funny. We just don't ever really take a picture of Matt because that's not his most favorite thing.
I know.
And, we like Matt to the point where, when we talk shop with him, we're just talking as friends. We're not like, let me get some investigative, inside scoop. It's not like that.
Yeah.
And he shared some stuff that, I was like, holy moly, man. And I don't want to say anything about what he shared because I don't know if it's appropriate or not.
Because it's still under evaluation research.
It's more than, it's
Yeah.
but it's like, I don't know if I'd want to be
But
involved.
every time we hang out with Matt, he has, and I'm saying the word incredible as in it is some of the most amazing experiences and evidence I've seen so far. So it is. It's like this, every time we see him, he's got this incredible experience or incredible evidence, some stuff that really makes me as a skeptic sit back and go, what?
Yeah.
And just talking
He's
to
got
him.
some stuff that make me want to get back in the car and drive away. Seriously, I'm like, okay.
He's got some stuff that makes me go, I want to see that myself,
Yep. So Matt's a great guy. It was good seeing him again, and he shared some stuff that really I couldn't explain, and it was good. We're not going to share any more than that because that's, I think Matt talks to us about some stuff. Anyway, he's from Mercro. Actually, he is Mercro, which is Mountain Empire Cryptid Research Organization.
Yep. Put a link in the show notes.
Yep. So you should check him out and kind of get an idea what's going on. Matt's a good guy. And then after we got done with the Bigfoot Festival, we basically bought a pizza, went home, and you were sick for a week.
So I want to back up there. I think I got sick on Friday, like after Friday.
Well, we did Friday night, and it rained on us on Friday night, too.
And I woke up on Saturday feeling awful. We were running a couple minutes late. I didn't think we were running late until we were already in the car. I was supposed to actually stop someplace and pick up some flyers and stuff. But it was just weird because the more and more we built up to getting ready for Saturday, the worse I started to feel.
Yeah.
So I worked.
We weren't late on Saturday.
I
You were
know.
like, we're so late. I'm like, no.
I know. But when they started letting people in early, that's when I started panicking because that's my psychology when I do some of these
A lot of the people that were cruising around early were vendors.
True.
So, and we didn't figure that. Oh, also, we talked to Gather Up Events, just doing the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival, and seen Nikki and chatted up with her for a while. And that's another one of these events that if you're a vendor and you're into the cryptid stuff, or you'd like to get out and try to do that sort of thing, if you snooze on Smoky Mountain Bigfoot, I'm talking in Gatlinburg, you're making a mistake, man.
Yeah.
You're missing out. So those are cool. And we're not trying to say, hey, you should do these, but you should do these if you like to do that kind of thing. Not only because, selling stuff or whatever, that's one thing, but you get to meet people that are into it.
Yeah. Like really into it.
And they have stories and they're like, let me tell you this. And you're like, can I record it? And it's the same thing. And they always say no.
We had a dude stop by and unpack his foot cast.
Yeah. Stone cast.
Yeah.
And Daniel was there for that. And we were kind of eyeballing it, trying to see.
Those are the type of people we
kind
meet.
of stone cast possible footprint.
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of got me was if we had been at some of the other events that we normally attend, I could have said, go talk to Jeff Meldrum. He's right there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really an option at Marion Bigfoot. But, and that's part of it too. You go to these events and you have people bring you stuff. Let me show you what I captured on this. Let me show you my video. Can I come around here and show you on my phone? And you're like, and you see stuff and you're like, I can't explain that.
The dude.
Who showed us a UFO.
Yeah.
From Morganton.
And I'm like,
3 guys out of nowhere come cruising and go, hey man, can we show you what we think is a UFO? And we're like, sure. And we're like, wow man, I can't explain that.
yeah. And we gave him a card too. So
And some stickers and stuff.
if you're listening to this episode and we gave you a card and some stickers, reach out to us. And if you want us to share this with our audience, we will, know.
Well, we always ask, and it's to say, hey, can we share this? And then it depends. When you get a look like kind of scared, then I don't pursue it.
And we got the Spruce Pine crowd again.
Yep.
Because Spruce Pine
Supposed to be doing an alien thing.
Alien thing got canceled. It hasn't come back yet. There's been talks for it to come back. But those Spruce Pine people came down to Marion for the Bigfoot Festival.
They have some of the most UFO sightings.
They have some crazy UFO stuff happening.
Concentrated. And the theory is it's because of the ultra pure quartz that is around there. It's in every silicone or every semiconductor, wherever you use quartz in general, like green computers and stuff all over the world. So that was pretty neat. So anyway, we had a really good time. And if you didn't go, you missed out. It's understandable. But keep an eye out for it. And if they do the same thing, because they're already talking about doing it again next year and soliciting information, like what would people like to see and getting people's opinions on things. So good on them for doing that sort of thing. And we enjoyed being there. It was a good festival, and we do enjoy John and his Bigfoot 911 crew and all that stuff.
Yep.
For putting that sort of thing on and making it known and getting it out there. And I will say, if you guys need some help for next year and you want to spread the word, all you got to do is reach out.
Yep.
Yeah, because we're not going to kick your door in. Hey. But no, it's cool. Yeah. But, hey, and if you're listening to this podcast and you are the person that blasted to one person in a Facebook post about, well, you should know, if you're into it, you should know, you're wrong, 100% wrong. I'll be more than happy to tell you that to your face. It really angered me.
Yeah.
Like trying to show off or something. I just got that vibe. And you know what? Absolutely incorrect.
Oh.
So, I'll fight you in the parking lot. I don't care. What?
I agree. I think that there's a tone or an attitude or a mindset that needs to be shifted a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and that brings up the news.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end with Marion Bigfoot. This is what bugged me. And you highlighted it. Do you want to talk about it? Or you want me to rant on it for a second?
I want to talk on it from my perspective.
Sure.
So, y'all, my side job is digital marketing I am a social media consultant. This is what I do for a living. I write PR stuff. I write press releases, articles, editorials, and I convey a tone or opinion, or I try to emphasize the theme of something in a polite way. So, in Paranormal and Cryptid and this podcast, I emphasize how we're exploring topics, and I try to keep an open mind. So when it comes to things in the community, like the Marion Bigfoot Festival, what I want to convey is look at Western North Carolina and the amount of people interested in Bigfoot. What I do not want to convey is the amount of money I plan on making at an event.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with Bigfoot, cryptozoology, or people interested in Bigfoot? That has nothing to do with the subject matter.
Well, not to them. They don't seem to care.
Even if you are a small business owner, if you take a genuine look at the cryptid community, paranormal community, heck, even not paranormal stuff, you never drive business by talking business. You talk about the product or message, and that message is Bigfoot, not the economy.
Oh, they were all about it.
So
they were
go
like,
on.
we're going to make more money in these 2 days than we'll make all month.
If you go on 2 different news outlets and voice how much money you plan on making off of people who are interested in Bigfoot, I will never, ever patron your business. Because that's not the message a small rural community needs to convey.
Yeah.
That's a message a small rural community should have behind closed doors within their chamber of commerce or their small business organizations or as business owner to business owner, but not to statewide news, not on national.
I thought it was a little distasteful.
Poor taste.
Yeah.
I mean,
now don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm glad small businesses and vendors and all that stuff made some cash and all that. But at the end of the day, man, you're there. You should.
But here's the thing. When you walk around, like, if I watch the interview, here's a good example. Watching interviews from the Mothman Festival, where, like, some YouTuber will walk around and he'll talk to the different artists, or he'll even talk to Wamsley, or he'll talk to the people at the museum. They talk about Mothman.
Yeah.
And they talk about the event itself.
Yeah.
They don't talk about, well, I just made $2,000.
Yeah.
No.
And that's part of it. We seen the news, right? And the news was taking, outside shots or, filler, right?
B-roll.
About the festival. And they were doing the panning around, showing the vendors and all that stuff. They spent 0 minutes talking about cryptids and Bigfoot and 3 minutes talking about how much money everybody was going to make. And interviewing businesses.
Yeah.
And they were saying how much money they hope to make and how it was such a boon for the economy. But it was just like, it was insulting because it's like you didn't even tell people why it was important to Marion, North Carolina and the surrounding area of why to even have a Bigfoot festival. There's been sightings, right?
Yeah, they didn't go to the main stage. They didn't mention the highlighted speakers.
Yeah.
There's this woman, Bad Betty, who made this amazing Bigfoot sculpture to be featured at the Marion Bigfoot Festival. Nothing. I think they walked past it.
Yeah, She Squatchers were there. They didn't really talk to them. They didn't talk to any of the presenters. They didn't talk to... It was just basically... The way the festival was portrayed was like it was just money grab.
Come on down.
Yeah. And that's not the way it was.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong. We are not canning the festival whatsoever. We enjoyed it. We've done this twice. It's been great. But the news, man, they... seemed to miss the point, and I almost think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just got the feeling that their message that they were trying to send was not the one.
Yeah.
Especially when you have people coming up showing you castings and actually have like experiences they're relaying to you and showing you and sharing. It wasn't just like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Let's go walk around and buy some Bigfoot keychains.
Who's that?
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like that. It was a lot of people that were buying the swag, but almost everybody had something they wanted to tell us. Or said, I've seen it once.
Or ask us.
Yeah.
Or
what do you know about this? Have you gone here? Have you gone to this place? Have you jumped the open gate? Or have you jumped the gate that's now closed that used to be open and walked? Have you seen like stuff like that?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh, hey, man. it was a thing. So anyway, moving along. Let's get done with that, right?
Yeah.
I will say that our next thing we're going to is the Wytheville UFO Festival in Wytheville, Virginia, and we have a link to that.
Yep.
And we're looking forward to that because it's UFOs and stuff. And if you're out in that particular area or anywhere close, you should probably go.
Yeah.
We'll be there. It'd be lots of UFO stuff, and guaranteed, if there's UFO stuff, there will be Bigfoot stuff too.
Yes.
Because they're like, it's peanut butter and chocolate. They just go together, right? I'm serious. It's nothing, you can't get away from it.
Well,
right?
if you figure Spruce Pine, North Carolina, high in UFO history, and then you go downhill a little bit, there's air quotes stuff there. There's Bigfoot.
And if you're in the area about 20 miles away, depending on where you're sitting on a mountain on the Blue Ridge Parkway, you can see the Brown Mountain Lights.
Exactly.
So you got stuff to look at. And then, on top of that, you've got Cherokee Lore and Chutacla. And anyway, it's a bunch of stuff going on.
But with the Wytheville UFO Fest, this is highlighting the wave of UFO sightings that began in and around Wytheville, Virginia in 1987.
Yeah.
So anything from saucers to the silent black triangle phenomenon to ominous cubes, all of these were witnessed by thousands of residents in that area. There's a news reporter that broke the story. So this is pretty much in celebration of these unusual events.
It was a UFO flap.
I mean, they even made it on Unsolved Mysteries, and I know there's a couple of different websites that have written about it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be cool. So
Yes.
yeah.
And we're gonna share every chance we get so that people will know and people will go. It'll be good. Yeah. It's because it's fun. I like talking about it, and if there's nobody there to talk about it with, then I got to talk to you about it. And you already know what I'm going to say, so it's like that's not fun, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about coyote bones or something. Yes. Okay, so this next particular article we had to put in here primarily because seagulls could be alien spies sent to watch us. Right?
Can't.
And I'm like, all right. And it says UFO expert claims. I'm like, I'm in, right? Mm-hmm. Because it reminds me of that one guy who's been on. I think he's been on all sorts of stuff because it's just so absurd. Where he says the birds aren't real.
Yeah.
That guy. So anyway,
which is what I first thought of.
But check this out though. Here's why this article is in here. I could have easily passed over it, but it says UFO expert believes that seagulls could be alien spies sent to Earth to spy on humanity, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Nick Pope. This guy is legit. And it's like from Nick Pope, right? And he's basically a government advisor. He investigated UFOs for MOD. And he urged people to be distrustful of greedy gulls. Now, when you look at like Rendlesham,
yeah,
that's like UK's
Roswell.
Yeah. I mean, this man, he worked for the organization to investigate the type of stuff. So he's not like us just talking about stuff.
Yeah.
He's serious business. Ancient aliens, all that stuff. Nick Pope, right? I'm like, all right, I'm in now. So I see Nick Pope, I'm like, what? And here's what he says. He says that besides stealing chips and ice creams, they could pose a more serious threat by collecting evidence for an advanced alien race.
Oh, my God.
Aliens could be using the birds to surveil us and send secrets back to their mothership. Right? And then the quote underneath this picture says, Nick Pope is a real-life UFO expert. And then it says, what do you think about the seagull threat? Let us know in the comments. And Nick said, if aliens want to hack into and control a living organism or construct a drone that's a perfect mimic, it would be best to choose something that's ordinary and ubiquitous, and that could be like something like a seagull or a housefly.
Oh.
Something you don't normally pay attention to.
A housefly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all the time, it'd be spying on us, recording everything, and sending information back to the alien homeworld. So they make it out to be he's some nut job. Mm-hmm. But what he's really saying is that, and this goes with all spy things, right?
Yeah.
If you want to spy and gather information on whatever, you want to make it to where it's ordinary and something you wouldn't normally pay attention to. And if you look at some of the CIA stuff, like spy stuff that they had, it's just ordinary stuff that you would never know, right? Like a pill bottle or something dumb like that, or a cane that shoots poison darts or whatever. And he's saying that, hey, if you want to gather information and be on the slide, use something like a bird. Like a seagull, or a fly, or a dragonfly, right? Something that you wouldn't pay attention to. But the way they put it out, and this is the mirror.co.uk.
Oh, such a legitimate source.
And of course they made it out to be like, this guy comes across almost like being a nut job. And if you don't read the last couple of sentences, you realize that they portrayed him in a way, I think, in this to make him out to be some kind of weirdo, and he's not. He's a legit UFO real-life expert, and he's saying that, hey, it'd be like, using like a dog or something who's just laying on your floor all day long, your pet, and who could be recording information all the time. And the inference is that if you're UFO, aliens or whatever coming in, that you have enough technology to where you could create a mimic.
Yes, right? But I'm sorry, this just seems way too borrowed from the like fake conspiracy or satirical conspiracy theory about the whole birds not real thing.
Yes, but I would like to point out that in one of our previous podcast episodes, probably about 6 or 7 episodes ago, we talked about the CIA making a bird drone, camera drone, that could fly for 6 months using a small, tiny atomic battery when they were spying on Russia.
Okay.
So I see what you're saying and basically bring up, it's been done before.
Yes. I mean, heck, the birds aren't real conspiracy or faux conspiracy was created in 1997.
Yeah. So it's not like it's a new thing.
I know. And it just happens to it keeps getting rehashed and reused because it's so absurd. And then, like, a dear friend of the podcast, Devin, she moved into her new neighborhood and she started talking to a couple of different people. And one of them is full on birds aren't real. And you want to say that's not, it's a fake concept.
See, I like it. It depends how fiercely devoted they are.
Very.
I know. I'm saying in an instance where, a lot of times I'm like, really? Tell me more, right? The only problem with that maybe is that sometimes you wind up spending 30 minutes or whatever, or even 40 minutes, and you're getting a lot of your time monopolized by one particular person, and then you have other stuff that you have to do,
and then you're emotionally exhausted because you just spent 30 minutes with an energy vampire.
You are. Well, not everybody's an energy vampire. I mean, let's be specific with that. But there are some people now. The thing that I have personally is if you're an energy vampire and I come in proximity, my self-defense mechanism is rage. I can't even control it. So I know when I run across energy vampires.
Okay.
I'm usually quick to just stay away or say something hopefully so off-putting that they'll just leave me alone.
But some of these conspiracies, like the way...
What's that guy, Colin? Like Colin from...
from...
Things We Do in the Shadows or whatever it's called. Oh, is that show even coming back?
I don't
would
know.
like to see that show.
But I mean, this article, the way it presents this Nick Pope theory, which again I feel is too borrowed, it presents it as already being far out there conspiracy. So it's just added to that bucket of quote unquote nonsense.
Well, the caption for the
picture
of a seagull with his mouth open basically is that could seagulls be alien drones?
And see, they're already putting it into, like I was saying, that bucket of things you should not take seriously.
Right.
And it gets down to that whole, are we going to keep being more and more absurd? I mean,
yes. Right now there's somebody laughing uncontrollably as they're programming their seagull drone, right? Well, I mean, okay, so when you talk about mirror.co.uk, in the same article underneath where they want you to read more, right, so you can kind of binge read their articles and stuff, Elon Musk could block contact with aliens if they use Twitter.
Oh, my God.
Well, to be fair, I mean, you can get blocked off Twitter for anything. So, but it doesn't matter if you're an alien or not. They act like, if you're an alien, you should have full rights to Twitter. Well, we're going to let you say what you want because you're an alien.
So there's new social media platforms that keep popping up, and now some of them are requiring, like, a driver's license. And I'm like...
I'm not giving you my driver's license.
I know.
Yeah, well, okay, so bots are a thing, and bots are everywhere. And that's what they want, real people instead of bots. So... Yeah, I thought that article was pretty smooth. I'm like, what? So, yeah, it got me. So I spent some time and realized what they were doing. And this next article I thought was pretty interesting as well. Because we actually talked about something about this. I didn't know it was actually happening, though, or already happened.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this when we were referencing the Space Force and all this other stuff. And here we are. Russian space combat crew launches top secret military craft to orbit the Earth.
Oh. When was
so
that?
I don't know. All right. And they're, okay, so let me see if I can find the date.
Earlier this May.
Yeah, so it wasn't like 10 years ago. It was recent.
Yeah.
And it says Russian space chiefs have launched a secret payload into orbit around the Earth using its Angara 1.2 rocket. And it's believed to be a radar military satellite amid the Ukraine invasion.
Yeah.
Okay. Kremlin space chiefs have launched the secret military craft into orbit, and the launch took place at the Plesk Cosmodrome in the town of Mirny. And so they're putting stuff up in there, and it says here. But here's what's the interesting part of the statement. A statement said that a space combat crew had launched the unidentified payload for the Russian Ministry of Defense. It's understood that it was probably a top secret new military radar, but see, nobody really knows.
Why would it be a combat crew and not like an intelligence crew or scientific crew? Or there's some weird wording or choice.
No, the wording is not weird. It is specific. They're letting people know, since we have a space force, and China has one too. We talked about, well, if we have a space force, then the Russians and the Chinese have one too, right? And here it is. A couple episodes after we talked about it again, boom, there's a Russian space force, which lets you know that there's also a Chinese space force.
Yeah.
And when they say combat crew and launching this, these are militaristic weapons or listening platforms or spy stuff that are putting in orbit right now. So the idea that we don't need a space force, this article right here justifies why we actually need a space force. Because if you don't know what's being put up in the atmosphere or in space, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about how these little satellites and things a lot of them have shadows that can do things and all that stuff. You put one of these things up in space with this payload and can destroy satellites or whatever, maybe take down Starlink or other communication satellites or whatever. And the war in space is a thing that can easily happen. So you have to have a way to combat it. And since, the Space Force is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, Russia has to say that they got one too. Chinese will be next. Because you kind of want to defend your assets in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Russians already did some crazy stuff, like they shot down one of their own satellites where the shrapnel field was taking out Elon Musk's satellites.
Yeah.
And Starlink. And then here comes Ukraine, and Russians try to take down Starlink by sending a malicious code up there, try to hack them, and that didn't work. So here we go. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's already happening. Who knows what's going on up there? I would just like to hope that if they're putting stuff into space like this, that we already have stuff in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what will happen is if some crazy thing happens in space and creates some kind of spectacle or light show, there'll be 1 million people on TikTok going, "Do you see what I see? It's aliens." Seriously.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway, they launched something in space, and they said when they basically set it up from the Cosmodrome, the combat crew of the Space Forces, the Aerospace Forces successfully launched a Angara 1.2 light class launch vehicle with a spacecraft in the interest of the Ministry of Defense. So is this part of the reason why Russia is no longer going to be part of the International Space Station?
I don't know.
Because they're going to put their own spacecraft in orbit with military people, just in general, to do whatever they're supposed to do, and their own launch vehicle?
Maybe.
Which is probably backed and built by China. This is a thing. And a lot of people aren't worried about it, and they should be. It says the launch of the carrier rocket and the launch of the spacecraft into calculated orbit took place in the normal mode. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean, normal mode? Do you have like a normal mode? Combat mode? Does this thing shoot missiles or whatever? Who knows? Yeah. But it was launched into orbit and accepted for control by ground facilities of the Space Forces, of the Aerospace Forces. Stable communication was established and maintained with the spacecraft, and the onboard systems are operating in normal mode. So it looks like whatever it is good to go. It says in total, over 30 ground-based measuring instruments and over 50 combat crews of the 15th Aerospace Forces Army, special purpose, were involved in ensuring the launch of the spacecraft of the Russian Ministry of Defense. 30. And over 50 combat crews.
Yeah.
So it seems to me an awful lot like Russia has already had a Space Force for a long time. So, and there's always been the sort of secret theory that the U.S. has its own Space Force that's completely different from NASA and does all sorts of off-world missions and all the crazy, just absolutely crazy things you hear, right? Like, yeah, I was on Mars. I did training on the moon, you know, all that crazy stuff, right? And, you know, the stuff that you watch and you're like, wow, that is really nutty. I can't believe that would be true at all.
Yeah.
Or my favorite, how the presidents are taught off-world when they're children. And then once they're grown.
I cannot possibly get behind that.
Oh, yeah. It's like when you talk about like how one president was in class with another president when they were youngsters.
Orson Scott Card sci-fi drama.
No, he
nonsense.
wishes. That guy's funny. This stuff isn't funny. But anyway, every once in a while you see a tidbit in the news that kind of makes the idea that some of these whack job conspiracy stuff that you hear about, you're like, that can't be real. Maybe it is. Maybe it's so crazy it's true. But there you go. Russia has a Space Force for sure. And you know, if they have one, Chinese have one, and we have one, who's next? But, you know, hey, if you've ever bought anything from Wish, have you ever bought anything from Wish?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what their Space Force is like.
Oh, God. That's awful.
It is awful. It's funny. They're probably like, what?
Take 4 to 6 weeks to get to space, and then by the
it's
time
the wrong size. You thought it was like really big and it's super
it's all
small.
metric.
Yeah. You're like, that looks really big in the picture. You know, and you buy like, you know, it's like, oh.
I have
like, oh, are you okay? So if you want American size, you know, your 2X is really an 8XL.
I have enough liters of water to get it survive in space.
Yes.
Yeah. Nope.
Yep. Anyway, I think that's about all we're going to talk about with this particular podcast episode.
All right.
But yeah, we played the song. We thought it was pretty cool. It was an email request, and we put it in there. Old Traumatic with Fly to the Mothman. We have links for that. Huh?
Post-traumatic.
Yeah, post-traumatic, not traumatic, which I kind of feel stupid for saying it that way, but that's okay.
It's okay.
What if it really is traumatic?
Who knows?
Like I said, I can't identify license plates either when people try to spell out their own stuff. Yeah. I'm choking on my own brilliance. Anyway, that's about all I got, I think.
Okay. Well, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in for this episode. Thank you to our Patreon patrons. If you want to join us on Patreon, go ahead and check the show notes for links. We mentioned how we got this cool song because somebody reached out to us. If you want to reach out to us, contact@creepgeeks.com or go to creepgeeks.com and click the Contact Us form. You can also reach us on social media. We're all over Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, what have you. We are probably on that particular platform. I do want to mention, check out the Crafted Intent Etsy shop. That's where we're going to be basically housing a lot more of our Creep Geeks swag. So if you didn't get to go to the Bigfoot Festival, check that Etsy shop. You'll find our Creep Geeks stickers as well as some other exclusives on there. Anything else you can think of?
Nope.
Okay. Well.
All right, there you go. So do appreciate you taking time to listen. See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
She knows that I'll grow slowly as a raindrop down her window pane. She knows that I'll hold her locket on a chain to keep the evil things away. She knows that I'll grow slowly as a raindrop down her window pane. She knows that I'll hold her locket on a chain to keep the evil things away.